yeah, I've been really looking forward to interviewing you. You're like, you've got a really amazing story on how you built your property portfolio. You're still very young, and you've got a lot of attention through what you're doing. So I'm really happy to get you on the show, and I really appreciate your time today. So welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. It's awesome to be here. Really excited to be here. So yeah.
Awesome, cool. All right, so people know you as a property investor. You've got a portfolio of properties, but before we get into all property investing and everything, I think initially your background. I think you grew up in Western Sydney, right? And then you had your first job in Macca's. So could you tell us a bit about that? What happened there? What was the story there?
Yeah, definitely. So I did grow up in Western Sydney. I grew up in the outer rings of Western Sydney, and the suburb that I grew up in was called Mount Druitt. So if anyone knows or heard of that area, it's pretty lower socioeconomic area, I guess. Pretty scary. Growing up, I grew up with a single mom on a pension, the poorest person pretty much I knew at the time.
Yeah.
No one in my family owned a property at all.
No. Okay.
Mum and dad broke up. Mum's only source of income was on the pension, so we lived in housing commission. Yeah, it was just pretty tough times basically. But that was the driving factor behind the whole thing I've done. Basically, not having a home to call my own. Yeah. And going to school, all my friends would. I knew one day they were going to inherit their family's properties and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, if something doesn't change now, if I don't do something drastic, then this whole thing's just going to keep on going. So I was still in school. I got my first job when I was like 14 years old. Worked at McDonald's.
Wow, incredible.
Yeah, so back then, coming from a really, I guess, poor neighborhood and, poor family kind of thing, I don't even know what university was.
It
wasn't even on the radar. It was a totally different world. And so I worked at McDonald's, and it was just, at the age of like 15, 16, I was like, you know what, no one owns a property in my house. I can see from, reading books and all that kind of stuff, which I forced myself to do because I was horrible in school. But I realized that if you want to create wealth, if you want to get, make money in the long term, so you're not having to struggle for the rest of your life, you got to own some property. So that's where my, when I first started getting interested in property, I was like 15, 16, and I saved up a deposit working at McDonald's. And I bought that first investment property at 18. So
that's amazing. Okay, so you grew up in Mount Druitt, and then so you looked around your surroundings and you weren't too happy with it. So you would say that would be the key driver for you. You don't want to live like this anymore, right? Therefore, you started learning about property and everything. Is that pretty much the progression there?
Oh, definitely. It was a lot of pain and frustration. Like, Mum found it very, very hard to put food on the table half the time. Like, we grew up in the old, worst, moldy old house kind of thing. That was just housing commission, was welfare, basically. So that it frustrated myself a lot growing up. And that kind of lit the fire. And then, 17, 18, I was like, what can I do to make money? Because I don't know how. None of my family even had a job, really. So
that's incredible. There was no mentors or anything like that, or you just okay. Amazing. Okay, so you got a job at Macca's, right? What were you doing at Macca's? Just working like making burgers,
just cashier, basically. Flipping burgers and drive-through. I worked at KFC as well.
KFC, okay.
Yeah, so at the age of 18, like finally I finished school. I just I didn't breeze by school, but like I made it through school somehow. I didn't really, probably got the worst grades out of everyone. And then I got a full-time job. So I got full-time jobs. I was working in like administration somehow. I was like 18-year-old kid working in administration. Just didn't know what I was doing. Very under minimum wage. I was working at McDonald's at the same time and saved that deposit.